What's up guys, LeopoldTheBrave here, and I didn't plan to make another death battle video so soon, but the last one did so good that I might as well keep the ball rolling. So here are my top 20 most wanted characters on Death Battle. Now I know what you may be thinking, wouldn't this be the same as my previous video top 10 matchups, because if I want the matchup, I obviously want the characters too, right? Well, yes and no. While matchups like Gru vs Megamind are super cool and I'd want them, I wouldn't really care if Gru or Megamind showed up on Death Battle if they were fighting someone other than each other. Get what I'm saying? Plus, there are also those times where you want to see a specific character fight, but you can't really decide or figure out who. And that's what this video is going to be about. Characters I want to see on Death Battle, but can't really think of a matchup for, or I don't like whoever their usual matchup is. Here's a couple rules for this video to make it a bit more interesting. If a series has been represented on Death Battle before, I can't add more than one character from that series. So only one character per franchise if that franchise has been repped on the show before. And rule number 2, I can bring back characters who have been on Death Battle, but I have to have another reason beyond just wanting to see them again. I don't want to end up having returning characters take up half the list. So with those rules set in place, let's begin. Number 20 is MK from Lego Monkey Kid. Now I can see your eyes rolling at the Legos, yes it's a Lego thing, but Monkey Kid is different, it's absolutely insane. Like Dragon Ball, it's loosely based off of Journey to the West. They even have Sean Schemmel voicing the Monkey King. The animation for this series was also done by the same team behind Rise of the TMNT, if that's any indicator of how good the fight scenes will be. By episode 0, yes 0, this franchise is already very versus viable, so I'd love to see MK show up in a death battle. I just don't know who he'd be up against. Number 19 is Frieza from Dragon Ball Z. I honestly shouldn't have to explain how good Frieza would be in death battle, but if you're out of the loop, let's go over it. 1, he's a non-Saiyan Dragon Ball character, that's a plus. And 2, he's a villain. We haven't had any Dragon Ball villains since Majin Buu against Kirby. They turned Broly good in the recent Dragon Ball Super movie, so I don't think he really counts. And Beerus, while neutral, is definitely leaning more on the good side. From what it looks like, Dragon Ball Super is trying to redeem Frieza for whatever reason, so they'd better use him before time runs out. I just don't know who he'd fight now because of Super's crazy scaling. But I guess anyone's fine as long as I get to hear him go, filthy monkey, again. Number 18 is Midna from The Legend of Zelda. There's not really much of a specific reason I'm choosing her out of the entire Zelda cast beyond the fact that I just like her a lot as a character, but just like in Super Smash Bros., the Legend of Zelda series is extremely underrepresented in Death Battle 2. We're almost 150 episodes in, and we only have 4 Zelda episodes. Not only that, but 2 of those episodes are the same character, Ganon. I'd just like a bit more variety in the Zelda reps we get instead of just sticking to the Triforce users. But there are so many versions of Link that I don't doubt we're gonna get him again next time we get a Zelda character. Number 17 is Rayman. I actually covered Rayman very recently in my own show where I research and analyze characters. So check that out if you want, and if you do check it out and get to the end, you'll see that I cannot really think of a decent matchup for him. It's a shame too, because he's a really cool character with a ton of powers, and he's also crazy strong, very versus viable. My brain just doesn't work well when it comes to pitting him up against someone, but let's hope Death Battle has an idea. Number 16 is Stitch from Lilo and Stitch. Poe in Death Battle was a really nice surprise as our first animated movie character. The floodgates for that are now open. And while the next obvious matchup is Hiccup and Toothless versus Hero and Baymax, the next obvious character is easily Stitch. He's a genetic experiment with super strength, he can grow extra limbs, he has super sharp claws, he has X-ray and infrared vision, he can spit acid. This little dude is just packed with powers, not to mention he has a ton to go off of, multiple movies and a TV show. I just don't know who he should fight. I put him up against Beast from X-Men a long time ago, but that was kinda boring. Number 15 is Spectre from Ape Escape. Ape Escape is the last piece of the PlayStation puzzle we need in Death Battle. We've had Crash, Spyro, Jak and Daxter, Ratchet & Clank, Tekken, Metal Gear, Final Fantasy VII, and quite a few more, so I think it's Ape Escape's turn to join their PlayStation party, and who better to represent it with than their villain, Spectre. While there's a different protagonist in each Ape Escape game, Spectre is always there as the villain, and he has a ton of crazy cool powers. I just don't know who to have him fight to where it wouldn't be a complete stomp. I considered Kakashi a long time ago because they look the same, with their silver hair, headband covering their eyes, yada yada yada, and they also both fight with illusions and tricks, but Ape Escape is just shockingly stupidly powerful and I don't want to do that to Kakashi. Number 14 is Sans Undertale, ba-da-bap-bap. Okay, so Undertale in Versus is really weird. People either overestimate all the characters because of timeline erasure and stuff, or they underestimate all the characters because they believe all the fights take place on a spiritual plane, not really having any physical feats to compare and scale to. And then it also just gets memed to death and the characters have whatever stats for whatever reason because haha funny. Undertale has never really been taken seriously in Versus before, and I plan to do that soon in my show that I told you about earlier, but I hope Death Battle tries it out someday too. And Sans, as one of the surprisingly best written characters in the game, would be really cool to see. Number 13 are the Inklings, and I'm actually surprised Death Battle hasn't even touched them yet. Splatoon is crazy popular. And the third one is on its way, so maybe soon? Now these little squid gremlins have a lot to work with. Paint guns, ink rollers, sloshers, bombs. But I'm up for them in Death Battle mainly for the animation that we'd get. It'd be insanely colorful. I don't know who I would have them fight though. I had them battle the Scout a while back because they're both colorful, stylistic shooters, but that was and I don't know enough about Da Blob to care about that matchup, so I guess we'll see if Death Battle can come up with any neat ideas. Number 12 is Crash Bandicoot, our first returning combatant. And yes, I do just want him back, but also I wasn't a fan of his Spyro matchup. Now don't get me wrong, I agree with the result, it makes sense that he lost, that's not why I dislike the matchup. I just don't like how Crash and Spyro were pretty much destined to fight each other on Death Battle. Their only real connection is that they're both PlayStation. In actuality, they're pretty much polar opposites. Crash is a linear platformer where the goal is to get from point A to point B, while Spyro is an open-world collectathon. Crash has this whole science-y mutant setting, while Spyro is a magical fantasy setting. And overall, Crash and Spyro aren't even rivals. They were companions on the PlayStation. If their logic applied to every matchup, then Mario would fight Link. Win or lose, I just want to see Crash come back and take on someone who fits him better. Number 11 is Undyne from Undertale. Now, I want to see Undyne a bit more than Sans because Sans is a bit too obvious of a choice for Undertale in Death Battle, but I also don't want to see her until Sans shows up in Death Battle so I can see how seriously they'll take Undertale. It's just a paradox of conflicting wants swirling around in my brain. But anyways, yes, I want Undyne in Death Battle. I think her spear moveset would be really cool to see in action, and I'd love to see how her determination plays into her analysis. I'm just not a fan of her only agreed upon matchup being Pearl from Steven Universe, because the spears are quite literally the only thing they have in common. But I also don't know enough spear users to think of an alternative, so oh no, help me out, Death Battle. Number 10 is Aang from Avatar: The Last Airbender, another returning combatant. And I want him back because his episode was not the best? I'm not saying that to be mean, but Aang is like one of the most beloved characters in all of fiction, and I just think he deserves a bit better. The episode he was in felt very filler-like for the season, and the fight he was in felt very low stakes. It was very laid back and quote-unquote comedic with all the short jokes, and some of the moments even betrayed who Aang is as a character, so it's kinda ugh. I just hope he gets taken more seriously in the future. Number 9 is Knuckles the Echidna from the Sonic series, yet another returning character, and I sort of share the same sentiment with him as I do with Crash. I'm glad that the side characters like Shadow, Amy, and Eggman were able to escape this, but it is a bit disappointing how the main characters seem to be tethered to the Mario series. I mean, Mario vs. Sonic, okay, of course, obviously. Luigi vs. Tails, fine, I guess, the sidekick thing. But Knuckles vs. Donkey Kong? I mean, I guess they were both rivals to the hero of their games at one point, but with Donkey Kong that was more his grandpa than DK himself. I just want to see what my favorite Sonic character can do if he breaks out of this Mario trend, so Death Battle, bring Knuckles back. Number 8 is the Medic from Team Fortress 2. As much as I want the Scout to get a do-over because his episode was a mess, I think the other classes of TF2 deserve the spotlight as well. And the one I'd be most interested to see is the Medic, because I don't think we've had a healer or support type Death Battle before. I mean, we have had characters with healing factors like Wolverine and the Hulk, but none specifically focused on healing others. Medic runs into a problem though, as the only big matchup he seems to have is against Mercy from Overwatch, another TF2 versus Overwatch match. I mean, there's also Valentine from Skullgirls, but Medic gets stomped there. Medic doesn't deserve to get stomped by waifus, blech. So hopefully if Death Battle brings in the Medic, they'll put him up against someone who isn't Mercy but is also cool. Yeah. Number 7 is Yoshimitsu from the Tekken series. Now Yoshimitsu isn't my favorite Tekken character, but he would be amazing to see in Death Battle with how much stuff he has. His cursed soul-stealing sword that he can fly with like a helicopter, he can teleport, spit poison, steal energy, he can even fight you by stabbing himself. He just has a crazy weird style that I could see the animators having a ton of fun with in the fight animation. I just don't know anyone who could match his weirdness. I mean, Voldo from Soul Calibur is pretty weird, so maybe, but that would be another fighting game versus fighting game fight, and those aren't always as hype as Heihachi versus Geese. Number 6 is Takamura from Hajime no Ippo. Now I already have someone fighting Ippo himself, Little Mac from Punch-Out, but that doesn't really leave anyone for Takamura, who is basically Ippo, just ever so slightly stronger and faster because the canon says so. Oh, also, do you like how Takamura is just floating here without legs? I couldn't find a full body render. Apparently he doesn't have one. Deal with it, yay! But yeah, this segment is pretty much nothing. I have zero clue who Takamura could fight. He's just my favorite anime character of all time, so I'd love to see him on Death Battle. Number 5 is Spike from Ape Escape. As much as I'd want Ape Escape and Death Battle to be represented by Spectre, the grand villain of the series, I can't help but let my nostalgia take over as I choose Spike. Plus, they're more than different enough to have unique fights of their own. Spectre's moveset is full of projectiles and psychic attacks, while Spike uses a lot of equipment and weapons. A long time ago, I had Spike fighting Toon Link from the Legend of Zelda series, because of the focus on using different weapons and equipment, their art style was similar, and even the button layouts of their games was similar. But when it came to their character traits and stories, there wasn't much to connect, so hopefully Death Battle can find someone better. Number 4 is Jack and Daxter, the last returning fighter on the list. And I want them back because I think their potential in matchups is greater when they're separate than it is when they're together. Despite Daxter adding so little to the fight, when you keep him with Jack, it makes you instinctively pair Jack up against another duo, even when there's plenty of really cool solo fights out there for him. Now, I'm not calling Daxter useless. Daxter actually has lots he could use in many of his own unique matchups. I'm just saying when they're kept together, Daxter's contributions pale in comparison. So if Death Battle were willing to rip this dynamic duo apart, I'd love to see Jack and Daxter again on the show. Number 3 is Travis Touchdown from No More Heroes. I got to play the No More Heroes games for the first time earlier this year, and I had an absolute blast. I love the story, the world, the music, and of course the characters. Travis with all of his different beam katanas and the moves he can do with them, the slot machine and roulette mechanic, and with No More Heroes 3 on its way this year, now would be the best time to bring Travis to Death Battle. I just don't know who he'd fight though. Scott Pilgrim is a popular opponent because of all the gamey references and stuff, but I'm personally not into the matchup. Scott Pilgrim has a pretty over-the-top energy to it, but not quite on the same level as No More Heroes. No More Heroes just gets crazy. Plus, many other people have already done this matchup multiple times before. It would be pretty boring to hear more of the same, even with Death Battle's higher production value. Number 2 is any character from OKKO. I just have Rad on screen because it's rad. Death Battle has been doing a lot more cartoon character matches lately, which is super duper awesome, and I hope they keep doing more, tapping into OKKO. This series feels like it was practically made for verses. You have the Shoto Fusion parody of Ryu and Goku, you have a ninja with Enid, you have an alien with Rad, and a mad scientist with Lord Boxman. They fight almost every single episode with a wide variety of moves, all their battles leave a lot of destruction that can be calculated to insane results. Many of the characters even have transformations and super forms. It makes you wonder why they haven't used OKKO yet. Plus, I just like the show. And my number 1 most wanted Death Battle combatant is Invincible. Sorry about this blurry PNG, by the way, I just cannot find any HD renders for Mark. Now, I know this choice is likely predictable because Invincible is the big new thing, but can you blame me? The show's amazing. They don't even have to wait to do this match either because the story is already complete in the comics. Now, the reason Mark is on here instead of Omni-Man is because Omni-Man actually already has plenty of matchups of his own. There's Homelander, which is a hilarious stomp in Omni-Man's favor, there's Bardock from Dragon Ball Z, and I'd personally put him up against Raditz. I know, haha, funny, Raditz lame. But I feel like Raditz being the one to tell Goku about his heritage and then trying to get him to join on in selling Earth has a lot better connections to Omni-Man than Bardock does just being the dad. So yeah, I do have a matchup for Omni-Man, it just wasn't enough to crack my top 10 last video. As for Mark, I've got nothing. There's Saitama, but I want him to fight Captain Underpants. There's Gohan, but that's boring and also a stomp in Gohan's favor. I don't know who Invincible should fight, but I definitely want him the most. And there they were, my top 20 most wanted characters in Death Battle. Which characters do you want? And what do you think of my choices? Let me know down in the comment section below, and I'll see you guys next time. Leopold the Brave, out.